give some conversational time to the structural changes that seem to be looming over rugby league in Great Britain and what we think that might mean. Very, very unheard of, really, for leagues to separate out and play within each other.
Pete Smith of the Yorkshire Evening Post put it best that I've seen, really, is that think of it more as a restructuring of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's a 23-game season with a restructured playoffs.
Yeah.
I think there's too many questions to be answered still. The RFL are still going to get together, think about how it's really going to work. There's questions about when and how Magic Weekend should be staged. Questions about the season's a bit longer. That's a question for me. I mean, it might only be one game maximum longer, potentially, but a lot of games will play 3 or 4 games more. Teams will play 3 or 4 games more. So how does that affect us internationally? We're already playing, 5 to 10 more games than the NRL teams are in a season, so that's going to affect us. I think the union might have something to say about that stuff. I think they already commented before, the Players' Union, about the worry that the season's getting longer and longer. I think there's question marks about the funding, how it's going to fund it. Question marks about, are we just going to stagnate because the salary cap can't increase if we have to look after the other clubs that are going to potentially join in the rotations each year, going to compete in the the end part of the season. I think there's so many questions. We need to, how the TV deal's going to work, because are Sky going to have it all? Are Premier Sport going to get some of that Super League 2 pie?
Yeah.
I think there's so much to be answered.
The thing I dislike about it is that for teams in and around the bottom half of the top flight, you don't know what you're paying for when you buy your season ticket. So the value of perhaps playing, Featherstone and Halifax and teams like that for a Castleford and a Wakefield fan is quite high. But as a Bulls fan, I'd much rather see us playing against the bigger sides. It's, for me, the fact that there isn't a big enough talent pool to sustain 14 top flight clubs means that there still isn't going to be a big enough talent pool to sustain the teams that finish in and around middle and bottom half of Super League and the upper part of the Championship.
Yeah,
these players are going to end up rotating round, not mercenaries, but guys who go from relegated team to promoted team and just rotate round.
We saw a little bit of that back in promotion and relegation. I mean, there was a few players who did that. What was Salford and Castleford saw a lot of that. And
Hull KR, when they came up in the middle part of the 2000s, they brought in a lot of guys that had relegated down as well. So I think there's questions to be answered there in terms of stability for professionals who don't earn millions of pounds a year, but need to pay a mortgage as well.
For me, it's strange that the top clubs are the ones who, they're the ones who voted against it, because it suits them the best in the current model. They're the ones who clearly have a vision for the sport to grow, to improve, because they don't want to sit there on this constrained low cap, things, those sorts of things. I mean, you could do what Wigan have done: sell your best players to the NRL for a transfer fee. Mean that you can run at a profit. You don't have to put your own money in if you're the owner. You can go out and buy the best young players: Dan Sargentson, John Bateman, Scott Taylor. You can go and buy these players from the other clubs. Still, but then be one of the best teams in Super League, because you've got all the best young players from the team, from the guys who are falling sort of out of the 8 every year, and where that leaves those clubs fighting for the scraps of the discarded players. Yeah,
it's certainly going to be difficult times ahead. But speaking of the future, let's talk about our next show, which, depending on the speed at which iTunes accepts our maiden voyage into podcasting, will...
And how quick we can get it onto other
And how quickly
platforms.
we can lay ourselves out on our social media platforms, will either be a more in-depth discussion and look at structural changes in the league, and hopefully we can get some interaction from fans and a live interview there as well. Or it's going to be the first game of the Devolution over at Salford.
Have we already said it was an awful... We already said it's an awful word.
The Devolution. No, I can't stand it. But they've had poor season ticket sales despite the Devolution. So we're going to contribute to the gate there at the. I can't remember what the stadium's called. That's not
the something Bell. AJ Bell.
The AJ Bell Stadium, which was the venue for my stag do as well. So we're going to be over there, and we're going to want to get some feedback from Salford fans and Wakefield fans, how you think your teams are going to match up, not just on the night, but over the season, because it's fair to say there's a difference in expectations for you guys.
We're going to have a bit more of an in-depth look at Salford and what they can and can't achieve, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's all to come next time. So it just remains to say, if you've got opinions and thoughts, we value your feedback. Get in touch with us over the internet. This is going to be a big part of what we do on the podcast. Thank you from me for listening. Anything you'd like to add before we go, Mark?
I just think if you want to follow us as individuals on Twitter,
absolutely,
you could get me at @MarkIll, and you can get you at
@TomCrook_. Apparently, Tom Crook is a popular name and it was already taken. But yes, we'd welcome followers. And also, I'd like to thank our celebrity professional rugby league followers that we've got. Already following the podcast, Mr. Chev Walker, Chris Wellham, who else have we got?
Wella
Haraki follows us, so thank you. Welcome
Nathan
along,
Massey.
gentlemen. Nathan Massey.
A few of the cast players, actually.
Got a big cast following already.
Tom Spencer from Lee. He's another one. We've got a few.
Piggy Riddell. Let's not forget
Riddell,
Piggy Riddell as well.
Piggy Riddell, yeah. Benker Kane. I think he just wants to sell some Herbalife, but Benker Kane.
I think if Benker Kane was here now and told me I was buying some Herbalife, I'd probably have to say yes. Okay, so that's everything. Season previewed. Let us know what you think, and we'll see you next time.